The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. I know we're usually talking about kids' cartoons and stuff, but there's going to be naughty language. Anyway, listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, your weekly home for animation reviews and discussions.
Kai, you said you're recording?
I did.
Alright, cool, let's do this shit. Hello, everybody! Welcome to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. I am your host, JD, and with me is my good friend, Mr. Kyle.
Yo.
That took you a second.
Yeah.
And joining us again is Adam, who I honestly don't remember the last time you were on here.
Hi, I was on last time for the Kim Possible review.
Oh god.
Everyone's
That's right.
classic live-action adaptation of the year.
I think I've just, purged that movie from my mind. So yeah, sorry we've been off for the last 2 weeks. Yeah, there you go. But we're...
Scheduling issues.
Actually, kinda, because I started a new job, and it, takes up a lot of my time, and I'm tired a lot now. JD's a tired boy. But, yeah, so we are back now, and we are talking about a new Netflix series that was maybe going to be at one point in the past a Cartoon Network series, but is now a Netflix series. We're going to be talking about the first season of 12 Forever. I remember when Cartoon Network was putting out all their pilots on YouTube a couple years back. I remember the pilot for this really sticking out to me because I even for the Netflix series I really dig this show's art style just because a lot of my art is very heavy outlines, geometric shapes, and that is what a lot of the character design for this show is, so it appeals to my sensibilities. So yeah, what did you guys think of it?
I was sort of there in the same boat a couple of years ago, I'm not sure if it was the same year they dropped Infinity Train or if that was a year after 12 Forever, but I remember...
I want to say that they were the same year.
Yeah, there was a specific, portion of 1 year where Cartoon Network just dumped a whole bunch of pilots, and most of them did not make it, but 12 Forever and Infinity Train did stick out as the two big ones. And 12 Forever in general was just sort of a neat concept. I don't think it was able to perfectly encapsulate everything with its pilot, but no pilots really can do that. But right. I was always interested, and I think it wasn't until last year that news just randomly broke, hey, Netflix has picked this up, it's going to be a full series. And it just sort of came out of nowhere, but I'm happy that it got greenlit for at least a season.
Yeah, I mean, it's really strange that there's been it's been strange the last couple years how we'll get these animated pilots and they'll debut on from one studio but get picked up by another. I mean, there's the most famous case where Adventure Time was originally a Nickelodeon pilot but got picked up by Cartoon Network. And I even think that Nickelodeon, I forget what the show is called. It's this little hot dog guy.
Pinky Malinky. I was actually going to bring that up because that was another what was going to be Cartoon Network show. I think it was the same production studios, Gumball and everything, and CN just passed on it. Nick made a bid, and then Nick did absolutely nothing with it for 5 years until they decided to dump it on Netflix.
Yeah, Nick's kind of doing that lately, we'll talk about in the next couple of weeks. So,
what a masterpiece of a show.
I've never seen it. It does, I don't know.
You should keep it that way.
I mean, when I was going to access 12 Forever on Netflix, Pinky Malinky also appeared there, and it has multiple seasons already. So
yeah, I did see it pop
so
up.
congrats to the crew for like staying employed and having more seasons of that show.
Yeah.
I just saw it and was like, woof, and I went away from it.
So yeah, 12 Forever finally got its full season order. Because I just remember when seeing the pilot, I wasn't there. I remember there being just it was a handful of pilots. I think this
My alarm's going off. I should be awake now.
well, you are because you're on the show. But I think
Oh, yeah.
I want to say this is the same year that like Ages Infinite Summer and Paranormal Roommates. I think that was all the same year.
Who could forget Bottom's Butte? I'm so disappointed that show didn't get picked up, aren't you?
Yeah.
Just such a missed opportunity.
Yeah. But yeah, like Adam was saying, I feel like 12 Forever and Infinity Train were the ones that really stuck out. And like I was saying, the show's art style was really what, like out of all of the pilots that came out, I was like, I'm really hoping this is the one that gets picked up. And it did eventually.
You weren't hoping for Hanging with Burgess?
I definitely was not putting my hopes up for Hanging with Burgess or whatever. Fuck that show. But when I finally saw that this was out on Netflix, I was really happy, just on a surface level, is that from the pilot to full series, I feel like the art style didn't change, like, at all. Like, it looks like one for one, like they went for the pilot and just kept moving right along to the full series. I did rewatch the original pilot the other day just for reference, and there is a little bit it's mostly just plot changes, which I think is for the better. So if you haven't seen 12 Forever, I mean, we're going to be talking full spoilers as we get along, but basically the conceit of this show is you've got Reggie is this 12-year-old girl, and she has this key that allows her to go to this what I consider an Adventure Time-esque island, just full of nonsense characters. And she just goes there because she doesn't want to grow up, and that just is her little escape, way to escape from reality. And the show really deals with a lot of like the troubles of growing up and puberty and conflicts between friendships and stuff like that. So there's a lot that they expanded on with this full series. So when I was watching the pilot, because as they were talking about the series, I think there's an episode pretty early on in this series where they're trying to figure out what the island is. But rewatching the original pilot, they straight up just tell you that it's Reggie's subconscious. So I'm wondering if that's gonna like become a thing later on if they get a second season, or if they're gonna be changing that aspect.
I think we can dive a little bit of that near the end, seeing as like the sort of cliffhanger it ends on. Not really much a cliffhanger, but sort of just like foreshadowing. But like, I feel like it's in this weird middle area where it's implied that this island has always been there, as well as other people, and other people can come to this island. So I'm not sure if they maybe changed around it just being Reggie's subconscious, or just like a general escapism for people to go away to.
It's like a collective subconscious for everybody, and I could buy that.
Yeah, no. I do really like that idea, and the episode that you were talking about where they're trying to make sense of this, and they sort of get stuck in this like infinite loop. I actually really enjoy that episode. There's some really cool they do some really cool stuff with like the art, and it's kind of a trippy episode.
Yeah, and I was like, when I was watching that episode, I was like, my brain was like going back to that one episode of Ed and Eddie where they break reality. And just like figuring out how reality works and just tearing it apart. And it's like, this kind of has a little bit of elements of that.
Yeah, like they're going through like her shadow and like breaking open parts of the scenery. It's like, it's just a really nice, surreal show, you know?
Yeah. I'll be honest. I was a little afraid going into this show because I watched the first episode and it almost turned me off. Only because it was throwing so much at me with all these random characters, which I'll be honest, I don't remember probably 90% of the names of these characters. Because there's all these inhabitants on the island, and like the first episode just throws them at you like one after another, like you're supposed to remember all these, and like this is just overload for me.
I don't think they really said their names in the first one.
They like when they go like, oh hey so and so, and that's like all they delve into them, because like Reggie, or 12 as she's called in the other world, is just like going and meeting all these people, because it's like their way of introducing you to all these side characters. But she like says their name real quick, and like a lot of the characters are reoccurring, but it's just like even after watching a 25 episode season, I still don't remember the names of most of these people.
I will say, I'm kind of there with most of the characters. I will say though, my favorite side character has to be Dr. Champion. I absolutely love how like boisterous and ridiculous this character is.
He just screams through the whole show.
And usually like
he's from Kentucky.
Yeah, he's from Kentucky.
I know like a lot of people, like even me, sometimes have a problem with loud screaming characters, but I think like this character strikes like just the right balance for me to like enjoy how ridiculously over the top they act.
I think I'd agree with that. I did like Dr. Champion. I thought he was goofy. I know there's two characters in here that I really did not like. The one is, I think his name is Colin, the big gray thing. I did not like him at all. And then there's
I don't like his design, but I liked how he acted.
I don't know. He bothered me. And then I think the characters in the show don't like him. I think his name's Borbo, that little green guy with the weird face.
He's a little creep.
I hate him so much.
He's a little creepy.
He's creepy. I hate the way he talks. I hate the way he looks. It's just like he like gets at me on like such a deep level of like, I don't like this character.
I can't remember the name of her, but I also like the lady with the knife hands. I think her name's Daisy.
Yeah, I think so. Just this, and it's weird because it's like, I'm pretty sure they like in that big introduction in the first episode, I'm sure they like showed her, but then she shows up in a later episode and is like, where the fuck did this character come from?
Yeah, she's just like a very not violent but aggressive character.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. So one of the things I do enjoy about this show, and it's something that I kind of like to give credit to other shows when they do it, is there isn't a lot of notable voice actors in this show. Like you don't have Tara Strong or Tom Kenny or Grey Delisle in this. It's a lot of low, I wouldn't say lower tier, just like not as known voice actors, or at least no one that I really recognized. The one character
I know, yeah, it's definitely more like low key voice actors,
right?
The
one character that was like, it bothered me for a few episodes until I actually went and researched. It's like Reggie's best friend Todd is like, why does he sound so familiar? So I had to go look him up, and he doesn't have a Wikipedia page, so I had to like actually go to IMDb and everything. And it's like, this is the guy who voices Pit in the new Kid Icarus game and in Smash Brothers.
Your mic is going in and out.
Yeah, I was
What?
about to say your mic keeps going in and out right now, JD.
Oh, I'm sorry. But yeah, the Todd is voiced by.
Well, I noticed it was the voice actor for Pit when he was screaming and doing stuff like that. It sounds very Smash Brothers, where you hear his voice doing stuff.
And I guess the biggest name voice actor, or the biggest name actor in this is who voices the Butt Witch.
You're going in and out.
Kyle, your boy Matt Berry.
You are cutting out a lot right now.
Tell you what, keep recording for a minute, and I'm gonna switch over to my phone so I can use my phone data, and maybe that'll help. So hold on 1 second. Okay, so what were we talking about?
You were talking about the voice cast.
Right. I mentioned that the only one that I really knew right off the bat was the person who voices the Butt Witch, who is Kyle's boy Matt Berry.
You don't even know who he fucking is.
I know who Matt Berry is. I watched the IT Crowd.
Oh yeah, what else was he in, JD?
I don't fucking know. That's why he says he's your boy, not mine.
There you go.
So Kyle, you've been quiet over there. What was your impression of this show?
I liked it. I think when I saw the pilot, I thought it was very Adventure Timey. I think that kind of turned me off just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like a lot of the character design, especially like the two gay toys, are very Adventure Time-ish.
Yeah.
Seems like something you would see in there. I don't know. I liked the pilot a lot. Pilot was pretty fun. Though I do think that character Shane was a little creepy, and I'm glad they got rid of him.
I've seen a lot of people like spooky. I've seen a lot of people complain about changing from Todd to Shane, or vice versa there. But I actually kind of like Todd, his character, over Shane. I think from what little personality they got from the original pilot, I think they really fleshed out Todd with, like, you know, his relationship with his older brother and his hard family life and wanting to be a musician. So I feel like they gave him a lot more than whatever Pilot Boy's personality was.
Than a guy that turns into a mom for some reason.
Yeah. Okay, so that's another change from the pilot that I really liked, because so Shane and Todd both had the ability to shapeshift. But I like that in the full series they've changed it so that Todd can shapeshift on his own. Cuz it was such a complicated concept where in the pilot Shane would have to, like, throw this ball of light to 12, who would have to blow it back at him for him to shapeshift. So it's like, that seems overly complicated.
Yeah, I do like how they've tweaked a lot of, like, things here and there. Just like how essentially anyone that steps foot into Endless, any human at least, they have their own power, you know?
Yeah, because, episode 2 in, you get how Esther is able to go there, which apparently she'd been there before. But she gets her own power. She brings a little boy into the world, and he gets, like, invisible powers. So it just kind of, add evidence to the fact that, like, maybe this is, like, a shared subconscious world. But who knows what they'll go on from there.
I mean, if you want to start getting into a little bit of spoilery territory, we can sort of let's discuss a little bit. I keep forgetting his name, but they do explain that there was a boy from, like, the 50s who, like, sort of came to Endless after his mother passed away from, major complications. He was orphaned, and he sort of just escaped to Endless and sort of forgot about his regular self. And that's a thing that they touch on a lot, is that the more time you spend in Endless, the more you start to forget about real life and sort of become the character that you are in this world, you know.
And it kind of like, because like a lot of the side characters are just like, they're basically children, and I'm not like, because like the whole point of that Reggie wants to keep going to Endless is that she doesn't want to grow up, and she's able to come to this island to kind of avoid that, but it's the entire island is just filled with like these like almost toddler level intellect characters. But then there's the episode where Esther and Todd spend their entire spring break in there, and it basically drives them crazy.
Yeah, they sort of add a horror element, sort of. And I kind of do appreciate that. It's sort of like to sort of be like, hey, it's okay to have an escapism from real life, but you don't want it to make it your like primary thing, you know?
Right, yeah.
Just like the character in the Thief episode, when he's just going through and realizing, oh yeah, that used to be me, you know? I completely forgot who I was and what I was doing, you know? Mm-hmm. And I wonder if they'll touch on that anymore if they do get future seasons. Like, I was just thinking, I know there's that joke where Dr. Champion is saying he's from Kentucky, but like, is he actually from Kentucky? Is he someone who escaped also?
Yeah, that's entirely possible.
I was telling JD there's a part where the two gay dudes, they're shown in Paris or something. It's the Eiffel Tower behind them. So it makes you wonder if those are actual people that can go or what, but they also had toys that they buried of them. So
yeah, because that
raises a lot of queer questions.
I mean, that raises a lot of questions about, you know, the island in general, because it's like, when you're first shown it in the show, there's characters already there, but Reggie doesn't want to get rid of a bunch of her old toys, so she brings it to the island and finds out if you bury things on the beach, they come to life. So she buries her toy Brown Roger, and she buries the action figures of the buff dudes, and they all just come to life. So it's like, were all of the characters on the island objects at one point, or have they always been here?
Well,
it
has a bit of a Chuck sound thing, because there's the octopus that flies.
Yeah.
It shows that she drew that picture.
Yeah, she drew that picture. I mean, they create Guy Pleasant, who is just like, they throw a bunch of stuff in a hole, and that it becomes elements of him. That's a
retard baby.
Was Bulbo the one who threw the picture of the dog in?
That's how Guy Pleasant got his like...
Bulbo, man. I hate him. So awful. Yeah, because Todd's like trying to create a cool older brother character after he goes to college. There's all this cool music stuff in it, and Bulbo throws a picture of a dog in at the last second. It becomes a half man, or half like 80s glam rock guy, and not even glam rock, it's just like an 80s band musician guy, and he's half like corgi or something. I don't know. He's a tiny dog.
Someone brought up that they don't know if that guy is actually an evil character or not, because he's kind of acting sinister in a way. And
I don't think he is, only because of later episodes.
Yeah,
but I mean, I guess now thinking of it, because it's like, when Esther and Todd go to Endless to spend their spring break, they spend it with Dr. Champion and Guy, who I guess are a gay couple now. I want to touch on that here in a minute. But yeah, there's several points where it's like Guy reminds, like, they do like a pumpkin carving, and he reminds them, like, we did that like 3 days ago. But he's not, like, stopping them, doesn't really show concern that they're slowly being driven insane. So I can kind of see where Guy might be a sinister character, but it's kind of, like, too hard to tell yet.
I don't necessarily think he was in that main episode. They sort of just made him off to be kind of douchey at first until until Todd plants the weird baby monster. that he ends up fathering.
Right. And it kind of gives him perspective, and he's like not a douche for the rest of the show. He's just kind of a regular character.
It's like after that episode, that character never appeared again, did it?
He shows up at the end, like towards the end, because he's like the drummer in his band now. But I kind of want to go back. That they like just kind of out of nowhere they decide that Dr. Champion and Guy are just like they're hanging out and are possibly gay together. And I just want to say, like, and I mean this in the best way possible, this show is hella gay.
Oh yeah, there's gay all over this show.
It's so gay. Like it's great. Like we're getting this like kind of like inclusion in a kid show now, and like how it's like not treated as a big deal. Because like the two buff
Mac
guys
and Beef House
are very Mac and Beef House are very like straight up a gay couple, and it's never like treated as like it's weird or like oh you guys are like they don't treat them as gay characters. They're just treated as characters who are in a relationship, and it's never treated as a weird thing.
Yeah. No, go on. Oh,
go ahead.
Okay, I just want to touch upon, like, I like that the episode centered around them. Like, one part is just them basically going through, like, a couple's therapy session. Like, talking about their, like, grievances. I just thought that was a fun take.
And it's, like, it's kind of refreshing to show them they have, like, a very healthy, normal relationship. Where it's, like, they know how to, like, talk about their problems and, talk about them in a civil way, and they like don't have any kind of the gay affectation, so it's like they're just two normal dudes who happen to be in a relationship together.
And like my only problem with it is they do throw a lot of like progressive buzzwords in it.
Yeah,
kind of have a problem with it because
like how Esther describes the
dating game.
The dating game is described as heteronormative.
Well, that's where I have an issue with it, is that she makes it a point to say, oh, well, this is a heteronormative game, and then you have two male characters, or two characters that are perceived as male, and they have no problem with it. They're playing the game like, no problem.
Well, that was kind of the that was kind of the joke she was going with, is like, yeah, it's kind of heteronormative, but it's still fun, so... It's like,
yeah, but they didn't have a problem with it. Why you gotta fucking say shit like that?
I think it's what you were saying. It's just kind of a buzzword where I honestly feel like that was kind of one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's a joke, but it's like we're putting in this word because we're progressive. I'm like, all right, cool. You have a lot of other things in here that show that, but all right.
Yeah, pretty much.
I did think it was interesting that they hinted at Reggie might be gay also, but she's also 12. So I am interested if they're gonna like continue on that maybe in another season.
Yeah, I actually really liked how it was handled, because it's not something I don't think comes out of nowhere. There's definitely hints of it every now and then before like the main episode, because like, for example, when she's always with Esther, there will be times when, like, she's looking at pictures of boys and she's like, oh man, doesn't he look hot? And Reggie's like, yeah, he looks cool, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of interesting you say that, because up until that point, I almost considered Reggie, I don't want to say asexual, I want to say that she just hadn't developed to the point where she had any interest in guys or girls. I figured because she was like she was so adamant about not maturing, that maybe she hadn't matured up to that point. But then when obviously she runs into Connolly, who I found it is voiced by Stephanie Beatriz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and I really like that show. But yeah, she gets all flustered, and you can almost write it off. It's like, oh, she's just overwhelmed because this person is so much cooler than her. But it's like, the way she acts is like, you could replace Connolly with a dude character, and her reactions would pretty much be the same. in a different context, but like the fact that they're like, oh no, she's getting flustered over a girl is like, for a kids show, that's kind of, you know, little pretty forward thinking, I guess. And again, it's not treated as a big deal. Like, she doesn't go to her mom and say like, hey, I think I might like a girl, and then they make a big deal out of it. It's just like she gets flustered over a girl, and that's the long and short of it. So
yeah, they even touch a bit upon that, which is the last time they sort of touch upon that before they go into like the finale arc with the dance episode, where she leaves because you know, Connolly ends up going to the dance and she ends up looking at her. She sort of just gets flustered and immediately wants to escape to Endless.
Right, because it's like she's getting these grown-up feelings, but because she's so adamant about not maturing, it is confusing. So, just like puberty is, puberty was fun. He said with no hint of sarcasm. So yeah, it's interesting that the show kind of puts up these like very, I'd say, progressive themes, but I feel that they go about it the right way by not making a big deal out of any of these things, by just presenting them as parts of normal life. And I feel like if you're going to, you know, introduce these kind of progressive ideas into your show or your movie or whatever, I feel like it's the way to go, because it's like if you treat it as this big thing, like it's this big different thing and it's something everyone has to get used to, it kind of draws attention to it. I almost feel like in a negative way, whereas if you just treat it as a normal thing, especially like kids watching it are going to treat it as a normal thing, so when they encounter it in their real life, they're not going to think it's weird and they're not going to make a big deal of it. It's just going to be like, oh, that guy likes other guys or that girl likes other girls or whatever, and it's just like, that's just normal. So good for you guys.
Yeah.
Kyle, you were always like the outspoken person for like, you like the butt witch character. What did you think of the character?
I thought she was great, but she's only in like 7 of 25 episodes, which is good, right. I guess.
Yeah,
she's not in too many. You don't want to oversaturate it, right. But I liked her relationship with that guy, Big Deal. It's pretty fun. Like the idea that she can turn things into monsters and stuff. That was pretty fun. But that was one of those weird things too, where I don't remember the pilot at all. The pilot, I think it was just a character normally.
Yeah, it was just the evil character, and I think had the bubble gun that could mess with things, but never really kind of went into her personality at all.
Well, I think with her and Big Deal, they were already together in the pilot.
Right.
In this one, he fell in love with her in a sense and wanted to like hang out with her more.
Right.
But I like that they had the budding relationship. That was cool, because you can kind of see over time she's kind of tsundere over him.
She is very tsundere over Big Deal.
Yeah. Like makes him a cupcake for their anniversary and stuff like that.
Yeah. I did kind of like that. It was kind of a nice change for like the supervillain and their minion, where it's like, oh, most shows would just have the supervillain and they'd be constantly shitting on their minion, and the minion just takes it. But it was kind of a nice change where you kind of see over time that the butt witch kind of ease up on him and even like shows that she cares for him. So I kind of like that as a nice change. I did think it was interesting that I don't know if anyone else got the same vibe about this, but it's like she's almost like a evil puberty monster, because she's always like talking about like having what it's like being grown up and maturing and
well, like the second episode where she comes by, she does bring up that used to be an adult paradise, the island, and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
Makes you wonder even more about the island.
Yeah.
Like there seemed to be a big implication with Buttwitch because I guess she was sort of recreated. They sort of say like she existed before, but she was sort of recreated out of all the like hormonal and puberty books that Reggie's mom gave her, and that she just chucked into the volcano there. But yeah, I absolutely love this character, even though they're not in a good portion of the series. Whatever episode she is in, though, Matt Berry absolutely like owns this character. It is a blast listening to him deliver these lines. It is so good.
Like I mean, even after watching the pilot, it still took me a few times to get used to like this very deep manly voice coming out of this like I'd say sexualized character. But after a while, it's like, yeah, I can't imagine anyone else voicing this character now.
Well, it's the same with Dr. Mrs. the Monarch.
Yeah, and even that took me a while to get used to, but now it's like, yep, that's how they sound.
Can't imagine anyone else voicing him. I think he does a great job. I love the character, and then someone had brought it up too that character is very sexual.
Oh yeah,
a lot of the poses, a lot of the body language that it does, and then not only that, but something in cartoons that they've been not doing anymore is showing characters having boobs or even having a butt anymore.
Oh,
a lot of cartoons have shied away from that. And
the butt witch is there. The butt witch has them full center.
it's there, and then not only the body language that she does too. A lot of the times is just showing it off as well.
Yeah.
When you get a distributor like Netflix, you can do that stuff. It's great.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I feel like if these were the themes that were originally in the creator's mind that they wanted to explore, I'm actually kind of glad that it's on Netflix now, because I feel like had they put this on Cartoon Network, not even half of the themes that come up in this show would have been present, because Cartoon Network is still on basic cable and, is a lot more accessible than, even though streaming is becoming very prevalent, people's viewing options. But because Netflix isn't really, doesn't really have any rules for what it can and can't do, they're able to explore this stuff in a kid's cartoon. So
it makes me feel like one of the reasons why Cartoon Network may have not picked up the series are because of most of these themes that's explored in most of these episodes. Like they wanted to help get the pilot out there, but after looking more into that, they're like, maybe this isn't something we technically want. There'd have to be a lot of, compromise with the standards and practices and whatnot. There are still shows on Cartoon Network that get away with that type of stuff. Like Steven Universe can delve into some stuff, but like not as much.
But it's a lot more subtle when it's on cable. But here it's like they don't even shy away from like showing things or saying certain things that like really, so exactly what they're getting at, rather than in Steven Universe, even though they technically had a gay wedding, they're still just like rock lights, so it's like they're not really human, so it's okay. But
I think they just say that to get around that.
Oh no, they totally do. Steven Universe is a hella gay show, even if they won't outright say it.
Well, I mean, even in modern shit on Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, they have gay parents and all this kind of stuff appearing, so it's not really that big a deal.
Yeah,
that they're doing stuff like that.
I just feel like in this show, it's a lot more in your face, but not in an annoying way. Where it's like, I feel like on stuff that's on cable, if they're going to show something like that, it's not. It's almost like a background thing. I've never really watched the show, but the only thing I can think of that it's like very front and center is the two gay parents in the Loud House. Other than that, I can't really think of any examples where it's like very like outright said that like, oh, this is a non heterosexual character.
Talking about Loud House for just a sec, they seem to be they've seemed to heavily push Luna more into that.
Yeah, I know that's been
a recent thing.
You're right.
But definitely going back to all this stuff, like you're saying, like a lot more of the topics they're handling like head on. The first episode, to give it credit, it has Reggie's 12th birthday basically not going as planned. You know, like she gets like a training bra as her like big gift, you know. And she's like,
but it has robots
it has robots on it, and it's completely humiliating, as it should be.
I thought it was funny because my wife and I were watching this, and when they pulled the thing out, that was the first thing I mentioned. She's like, "Oh, but it has robots on it," and then her mom immediately says the same thing. I did like Reggie's mom, just for like how normal she is, I guess. Where she's like a single mom, doesn't really know how to. She's kind of awkward when it comes to explaining things to her kids, and like gets real frustrated because Reggie is very strange and like acts out in public.
And then bonds with another kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's on the one hand, I kind of sympathize with her mom, especially in the episode where they go to the mall, where Reggie is just acting like a shit the entire time, and like just seeing her getting progressively more frustrated with that. And it's like, yeah, I'm kind of on her side with this. She is kind of acting like a shit. Can't have one day where this child behaves.
And then she still gets her fucking way.
Yeah.
Get the boots.
Yeah, there's like, she gets her boots, and her mom sticks up for her when the other girls make fun of her in the bathroom. So it's like
they had to meet in.
It's like
they had to meet in the middle somewhere. You know, she still wore the dress, but you know,
she got to wear the
boots.
Wear the boots. And yeah, I mean, the mom does kind of compromise with her a little bit, a lot of the time, where it's like, yes, she wants her daughter to be herself, but she also thinks it's like you're at that age where you need to start growing up a little bit. So it's like she's not the oppressive parent where it's like she's demanding that, you know, she has to get rid of her toys and start acting more adult. It's more of a like kind of a frustration where she's like she doesn't want to stifle her kid, but at the same time it's like she's just like at the point in her life where she needs to start making changes and she's not. So it's I get her frustrations, I guess.
On the
oh
yeah,
go ahead.
You first.
I mean, her mom does kind of have a nice supportive role to Reggie. I do really like her two teacher characters that really kind of like really support Reggie and her eccentricities. I forget what he
teaches. Three teachers.
There's three teachers, but there's only because there's the one teacher who's the DJ at the dance, who I forget what he teaches, and there's the art techer.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's English.
Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, I think he's. Yeah, so there's those two especially, because I like the little touch where like Reggie's like drawing inside her locker, and he comes up and is like, "You can't be doing that. It's technically a destruction of property." But like later in the episode, he straps a whiteboard to her blocker so she can still draw on it, but not like destroy the locker in the process. So that's really nice. And then, like, you know, she's doing her little dioramas with her action figures, and her art teacher is totally supportive of doing that because he thinks it's creative. And, like, she even has, like, a little crisis where she thinks she's weird, and, you know, everyone has a problem with her, and her teacher is like, no, like, you being creative is, like, one of your best qualities, so don't change that. So I don't know. It's nice that, like, with all the outside forces coming against her, like, telling her she needs to grow up, even her friends do it at points. It's nice that at least she has some kind of a support system.
Yeah, I really like that. Going back to the mom, though, I think the way they were able to handle the relationship with her and her father was also really respectful, and another bold thing I would actually say to do. Like, it's sort of like a mix of sort of a divorce, but not really. It's, you know, they had to explain, like, hey, Reggie, your dad loved you and he loved me, but he wasn't able to, you know, raise a child, you know.
Right.
He wasn't ready for that stuff.
Right. And like you said, I think it's kind of a bold way of putting it, because I feel like in any other medium, I've seen that when you have two divorced parents, and even from my own experience having divorced parents, whenever one talks about the other, it's usually in kind of a negative connotation. But yeah, her mom in this, when explaining, like, why your dad isn't around, it's very kind of a calm, you know, from an understanding place. And, like, yeah, it sucks that the dad wasn't mature enough to, you know, to handle raising children, but she never, like, disparages him for that. If that's, like, something that she's, like, just slowly grown to accept over time, or if that's how she's always felt, I don't know. But her being able to, like, explain that to her kid and not, like, talk negatively about the other parent so that, you know, like, that Reggie would get some kind of negative connotation about her dad, I think it was kind of refreshing.
You know, I think the reason why it sort of resonates with me a little bit more with both 12 Forever and Infinity Train tackling this subject to me is that coming from someone who did have parents who divorced, you know, at a particularly young age where they were still able to sort of understand, but, you know, not really understand the whole situation. Right. I do like how this stuff is being portrayed now, because it was a tough thing when I was younger to think about, you know, like, why don't they like each other, or why aren't they together if they still don't hate each other fully, you know? Right. It was something that I could never understand, but, you know, they're doing a very good job with it.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, I also come from a family that was divorced very early on, and spent a good majority of the parents bad-mouthing each other. So it's kind of refreshing to see kind of these respectful portrayals of divorced parents, because I think kids with divorced parents is becoming very more common in the real world now, especially in the last, like, 10, 20 years. So I think showing those kind of themes and, like, showing kids, like, again, it's not treated as a big deal. It's treated as, like, yeah, this character has divorced parents, and that's just, like, you know, that's a normal thing now. And I even like that both Reggie and Todd have divorced parents, and the show makes a point to show that the parents are, well, Reggie's mom is in the process of moving on, because you see her go out on a date with a guy. But then you have Todd's parents, who, yes, his dad is kind of, like, going through a midlife crisis, so he's, like, being kind of inattentive. But he also has kind of already moved on, because he has, like, I couldn't tell if she was, like, a live-in girlfriend or if she's just over there all the time. But I didn't have siblings that lived in my house growing up. They all lived with my mom. But I can kind of sympathize with Todd having a inattentive parent who is actively trying to pursue a life and relationships when they have a kid. So it just showing that it's like, yeah, I can definitely relate to this, and I think it's good for younger kids to kind of be exposed to that now, and it just show that it's like it's not an unnormal thing to happen these days.
Well, I guess I'm in the minority.
Yeah, I'm Kyle. I have parents that are still together.
Look at me. My parents love me a lot.
Yeah. They do.
One of the last things I kind of want to touch on is kind of like going on the basis that they are going to have another season of this, is that they raise a lot of questions about what else is out there in the world of Endless, because for most of the season you're led to believe that this island is the only thing, but then the boy who's been there since like the 50s shows up, and he says like, oh, there's like all these other islands out there with all these other people on it. So it's like, I'm wondering and kind of hoping that if there's another season, like that's kind of what the basis is they go out and explore and see what else is out in there in this world, because I think they did a good job of establishing this kind of nonsense island with all these characters, but I think they need to start widening the scope of the world by maybe exploring like what else is out there.
Yeah, it's really weird because just, okay, spoilers, the end of the series, she's basically with Todd. They've reconciled their friendship. They defeated Buttwitch from completely destroying it because... actually, should we go a little bit into that before we talk about like the end?
The anger
yeah,
ones?
Like in Endless, sort of, you have these manifestations of their anger, you know, like virtually like physically come out of them.
These gross ass gummy worms.
And it's sort of the power that Buttwitch gives because she feeds off of insecurities, a lot of insecurities, you know, doubts, and so,
yeah, she basically feeds off the negative emotions that come with puberty.
But yeah, anyways, they beat her, and then they just have a random scene where they're back in the regular world at Todd's house, and her key starts glowing, and then it seems to imply that a new island has sort of been created right before it cuts to credits, you know.
Okay, because it like cuts back to Endless, and like off in the distance there's like this light that bursts from the ocean. I was like kind of wondering what that was supposed to mean, but if you're implying that like that means like another island is birthed, like I think that kind of makes sense.
Like definitely something new being created right there.
Mm-hmm. So
that was another thing was the whole thing about wondering if this is a make-believe island or whatever. When she gets attacked by the Buttwitch, she also has bruises and scratches on her arm. That was like, huh.
Yeah.
Wonder what that means.
Yeah, it's strange because I feel like the rules about like what can and cannot carry over from both worlds is like, I feel it's kind of
shaky.
Whatever the plot. Yeah, it's whatever the plot needs it to be, because it's like, yes, Reggie gets a big cut on her arm from the Buttwitch, and that carries over into the real world. But at the same time, when they try to bring things over, like I don't think they're able to bring other objects over from Endless, but they can bring things into Endless.
That's one thing I would like to see explored. If they can bring other people into Endless, can they bring the people out of it?
Right. Because they're like Esther gets in there, the boy that Reggie's babysitting getting in there, or Todd even like flirts with the idea of bringing his girlfriend in there. But yeah, I am curious, is like, what would happen if like they make it so that the characters from Endless are able to get into the real world? Like, what kind of ramifications that would have?
I think they established like
Season 2.
if like certain objects like obviously objects that have been buried and that have come to life are pretty much established. Like, they cannot leave Endless at that point. But I'm not sure with the other things, like not knowing if they're human or from like a toy or something, like buried, like Dr. Champion, you know.
Well, see, it's kind of weird. Again, with like the fast and loose rules of like how this world works, because there's a joke where like Esther said she brought a camera in because she wanted to take pictures of it, but the camera came to life and flew away. But then she brings the board game in, and like it's just a normal board game, and she's allowed to. I assume she's allowed to take that back with her. So it's like they established that like, yeah, if you bury things in the sand, it'll come to life. But it's like, what about these other objects that came to life and didn't need to be buried, or like what are the rules for like things that are and are not brought to life? So I feel like there's a lot of things that they can explore if given another season. A lot of things that could be explained. So I like this show, even though it had a rocky start for me personally. I am interested to see where this could go. And again, like I really enjoy the art style, even if some of the characters aren't my favorite. But I like the character design. I like the colors that are used. There's a lot of like really vibrant neon colors in Endless, whereas the real world is kind of like more muted, and I feel like that's kind of a nice contrast that they had. So yeah, I think overall, I think this was a good introduction to this world, and I'd be curious to see what else it has.
Yeah.
Do you guys have any closing thoughts you want to say before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I really ended up enjoying a lot of the series. Did start off a bit slow at first, but there were a couple of episodes that really made me enjoy it more. You know, we didn't touch upon them too much, but I'll just quickly touch upon them here. The episode with her brother, where they sort of have more of a connection, you know. They go a little bit more into that, how they, you know, used to make home movies and play a lot, and then they sort of just got separated and stopped doing that stuff, as well as the episode where they find like an abandoned grocery store with like all of their embarrassing memories, you know. I really like that one, especially, you know, when they go into Reggie's, where she basically got stood up, no one came to her party. And, like,
I don't know why, but, like, I know that they show that as, like, this most depressive one. I was like, God damn, that was sad.
It was.
A lot of people online were saying that they related to it quite a bit, because I guess it's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah, like, so. I feel like even the way it's presented, it's like, I feel like someone on the staff had this happen to them. It's really fucking sad.
Yeah, that's definitely, like, a personal issue, like, and I've been there, definitely, like, not personally, but like wanting to do something and then like inviting all these people and working real hard on this, and then no one shows up.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of related. I related a lot with this show too, only because I feel like I was kind of a weird kid growing up, where a lot of people were like kind of put off.
You're a weird adult.
Shut up. I'm a more well-adjusted weird adult.
You say so.
I grew up being a weird, like, ADD weird child. But it's weird looking back on, like, how Reggie is kind of a weird ADD child, and, like, I can understand and relate, but at the same time kind of cringe a little bit. I'm like, oh god. Some of this hits a little too close to home. Kyle, what are your final thoughts here?
Not fucking Jerry Springer. I don't have to give my final thoughts. I liked it, alright? It was cool.
Alright.
If it gets one more season, fine. If it gets one more season, fine. If it doesn't, whatever, alright?
Whoa.
I like Buddy Thunderstruck, but that didn't get a second season, now did it?
Did he get canceled?
Did you hear me? I think it did.
Oh, that's
Did
sad.
you hear me bitch about it like everyone bitched about Tuca and Birdie? No, because I just roll with the punches, alright?
I'd be sad if Buddy Thunderstruck got canceled. I like that show. And the creator listened to our podcast.
I don't think it's coming back.
Hooray!
He did. Now let's get Julia Vickerman to listen to this.
I'll tag her, why not?
If she's not getting sued by 3 different people.
Okay.
As the lawsuit implies.
Alright, cool. Alright. Well, thank you both for being here, and thank you everyone out there for listening. And we'll be back again next time with something else, so stay tuned and all that. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter to keep up with the show. Join our Discord to chat with us, and subscribe to our Patreon for some cool bonuses. Links are in the description. We'll see you next time.